All right, hello everyone. Welcome back to the channel. If you have not been here before, my name is Matt. I'm a therapist in private practice. I also own a group practice. And today we're going to talk about ALMA and Headway. Now this is going to be more of a raw, uncut video. This video is not sponsored in any way. ALMA or Headway, don't even know I'm making this. I don't work for them. This is a totally my opinion, my thoughts as an actual practitioner video, right? So it's going to be, that's what it is. It's my own thoughts, my own opinions. I'm going to give you the good. I'm going to give you the bad. By the end of the video, my whole intention is that you'll be more informed about ALMA and Headway. And the reason I'm making this video is because, a little while back, I've actually made a couple of videos about ALMA and Headway before, in particular, how to run a group practice with ALMA and Headway. So if you want to know about that, I'll leave a link down below to that particular video. In it, you'll learn a lot more about ALMA and Headway and how you can use a group practice, or how you can use them for a group practice. But since making that video, I've seen on my YouTube analytics that a lot of people are searching for Headway and ALMA, and I think they have a lot of questions. I also get emails from people asking me about ALMA and Headway and various questions and things like that. So that being said, I wanted to just turn my camera on today and share with you some of my thoughts to give you some insight. So just a little warning here, there's going to be no cuts in this video. I'm not going to edit anything out. So I'm going to do my best not to ramble, and I'm going to do my best not to have any weird, awkward pauses. But this is just like me talking to you in person, all right? So why don't we just start out with the basics. For those of you who don't know ALMA or Headway, ALMA and Headway are two relatively new, I would call them startup companies, that primarily target therapists, and particularly therapists in private practice. Now, they are two different companies. There's ALMA and there's Headway, and they do very similar things. All right. Their main draw is that they credential therapists with different insurance providers, right? Both of them do that. So, for example, when you sign up with ALMA or Headway, you can be credentialed with a variety of commercial insurances, and as you get credentialed, and once you're credentialed, you can then use ALMA or Headway to submit claims and things like that, right? So on one hand, it's a billing tool, right? Credentialing and billing. So that's one major draw, right? And I think that's pretty much how they started, right? With that, because that was a very difficult thing to do for people in private practice. Historically, getting credentialed was really difficult. So there were a couple problems with that. One, a lot of therapists just chose not to be in network, right? Because it was so difficult to be paneled. And then number two, that had a kind of a effect on just mental health accessibility, because clients then had a hard time finding mental health providers in network because of this. So ALMA and Headway came in and they really helped address that problem, I think. Right, so again, that's one of the main draws. Number two, they both have directory components. All right, so ALMA has a directory, and that's from the consumer side. So if you're looking for a therapist, you can go on ALMA. You can search for what kind of provider you want. You can search for the insurance type, and just like Psychology Today, you can have a list of providers. Right, now that's great for clients. It's also good for therapists because you can be found by potential clients. All right, Headway does the same thing. They also have a directory as well. So again, gives you a place to market your practice and to be listed so clients can find you. All right. Those are, I think, the two things that kind of started those companies and the main draws for therapists. Now what they're doing is they're now rolling out all sorts of different features. All right. So for example, ALMA is starting to build out an EHR. So now you can write progress notes inside of ALMA. I don't know if you can do a treatment plan yet. Now, I'm going to tell you why I don't use it for an EHR. I'm going to share with you some of the drawbacks to all this in just a second. We're just kind of going through what they are. So ALMA is kind of rolling out an EHR, right? So it's kind of starting to slowly build that up. It's not totally there yet, right? So that's a feature that's been added. And they're constantly growing and developing. So another thing they've also rolled out was a blog for consumers. So a place where like people who are seeking out therapy can go and learn more about, how to find a therapist and things like that, right? So like any other kind of tech company, they're always rolling out different changes, all right? But as it stands today, they are essentially a tool for your private practice. Insurance credentialing, billing, directory, and slowly building out an EHR. I wouldn't use it for that yet, but it's kind of working in that direction. And then Headway is going to be almost identical to their offerings. They're also slowly building out an EHR, I believe, credentialing and billing, right? So they allow that in the directory. All right, so that is kind of the layout. That's ALMA and Headway. That's what they do. Now, the main questions I start to get about ALMA and Headway have to do with mostly like their EHR kind of side of things, and kind of like how people are basically asking, like, how do I run my whole practice off ALMA and Headway? And this is where there's a drawback. All right, ALMA and Headway, as it stands today, it's 2023, soon to be 2024, are not fully built out EHRs. That's a health record system. So you don't have all the features and all the you don't have access to all the things that you need to keep a client record, right? So for example, I think, again, I might be wrong, I have to look, but I'm almost certain they don't have like a treatment plan option. You need a treatment plan when you see clients, right? And if they do have one, or if they've just built it, it's very new. And so there's a lot of kinks and issues with it, right? So in that regard, and this is the same for Headway as well, that these two platforms cannot be relied upon as your only tool in private practice, right? So again, people are sometimes asking, like, how do I document inside of ALMA? Or, how do I send assessments to people in ALMA? And to some degree, you can do it a little bit, but not too much, right? So in my opinion, it is still a very wise idea to have a dedicated EHR as your main base for your practice, right? An EHR is essentially the backbone of your practice. This is where you store documentation. This is where you keep client information, right? And you want a system that's already been built and tested with time. Let's imagine you get subpoenaed in court, right? And you have to give records. But ALMA or Headway doesn't really, they're brand new. Do they know how to export all your records or all the records you need even in there? Right, a couple things to think about are that ALMA and Headway are not going to take any responsibility for you and any mistakes you might make as a result of relying on them. So, for example, let's say you sign up with ALMA and you're required to do a treatment plan every 6 months. Right, I'm just making this up for the sake of the video, but ALMA doesn't have a feature that kind of reminds you, or you're not able to update the treatment plan very easily, and so you don't do it, right? You can't turn back and say, ALMA didn't have this in their system, so I didn't think I had to do it. You are still your own business and your own private practice. You're simply using ALMA and Headway for their tools. So the way you really have to think about this is that you need to determine what you need to do, and we do that by looking at our state licensing guidelines, our state laws. We can consult an attorney. And then we figure out what tools do we need to make sure we stay in compliance, right? So I know for me that a lot of the things I need to do are the same for you or any other therapist, right? We need to be HIPAA compliant. We need to do a certain number of treatment plans. We need to do assessments. I mean, there's all sorts of things we need to do. And so that's why I've chosen to use an EHR as my home base, right? Like a true and tested one. There's all sorts of EHRs. You've got Simple Practice, you've got Jane, Therapy Notes, all these different platforms, right? Now, the problem is those platforms don't credential you, right? They don't get you paneled with insurance providers. They do offer some billing features, but they're not probably as easy to use as something like ALMA or Headway. And so in that regard, we end up having to use both. I think, at the end of the day, as it stands right now, there is not any one and done true like private practice tool, right? I think we need, as practitioners, it's kind of stinks because it requires a lot of time and finagling and all sorts of things, but we typically need a bunch of tools to run our practice, right? Now, that being said, I do try to run a practice with a minimal amount of tools because too many gets too chaotic, right? And so I hope that this is starting to bring some clarity. I hope this makes some sense for you. The other drawbacks to ALMA and Headway are that we don't know how long they're going to last, right? Sorry about that. That was a reminder. We don't know how long they're going to last. And I say that because if you're credentialed with ALMA and Headway and you start seeing all these clients who are using their insurance, and then ALMA and Headway for whatever reason disappear because they're a startup company, overnight you will no longer be credentialed, right? So it's not we don't know how stable those companies are and how long they'll last, right? So that's another thing you have to consider. Right. So I currently, in my own practice, I originally started, being paneled with ALMA. I since have paneled on my own, and I occasionally will use Headway simply as part of my group practice. Excuse me. But if you want to learn more about ALMA and Headway and group practices, check that video out. That'll give you the whole rundown there. So I'm simply using these two platforms as a billing tool. Right. At the same time, I've also created systems in my practice where I'm credentialed independently, and I use my EHR to submit claims and things like that. So if anything's to happen to those two tools, remember they're tools, my practice will still be up and running. Okay. So when it comes to kind of the drawbacks, I think it really does come down to they're not fully built out EHRs. Right. They are slowly getting there, but they're not there yet. So my advice to people is to always have a fully functioning EHR, and then go from there. Trying to think if there's anything else that would be helpful to share. I mean, people ask all sorts of, I guess when I think about some questions I've got, they ask like specific questions about like what the actual platform can do. And if it is a billing related matter with like insurance paneling or claim submission, then ALMA or Headway will typically be able to help out with that as long as you got paneled with them. All right. So those things are usually taken care of. The other thing is, I think sometimes people think that ALMA and Headway are like foolproof. Right. So if you're getting credentialed with them and you are submitting claims through them, that really, then you're all set. But it's not totally true. I know that their audits can still happen. Clawbacks can still happen. ALMA and Headway do make mistakes. They don't always verify benefits properly. And again, all of this, you're still your own business. You're just using them as a tool. So all of that can fall on you. So I do want people just, as you watch this video, just know they're not perfect. They can be helpful tools. They are certainly not going to be your only, like your one and done solution. All right. I hope that this little talk helps you. I hope you learned something. Let me just see, was there anything else that I thought would be helpful about ALMA or Headway? No, I think those are the high level. I think those are things that should give you a lot of information about them. If you have more questions that this video didn't answer, leave a comment down below. I answer almost every single question that comes through. But until next time, I look forward to seeing you soon.